Roseville and Rocklin look similar online because the internet's a little bit lazy. It's the same general area, similar prices in some neighborhoods. They're both in Placer County. And they're both also really popular with people that want to move into the Sacramento region without some of the chaos. But here's the problem. See, Roseville usually feels easier and Rocklin often feels better. Now I know that sounds like maybe a subtle difference. But if you confuse those two things, you might end up in the right house, but in the wrong life. I'm Reese, and I help people relocating to the greater Sacramento area figure out exactly where they want to live based on their lifestyle, their goals, and their budget. And Roseville versus Rocklin is one of those decisions where they think they're comparing two suburbs, but they're really comparing two different versions of their future Tuesday afternoon. So if you're thinking about buying or selling in greater Sacramento, Rocklin, Folsom, Lincoln, Elk Grove, anywhere in greater Sacramento area, just reach out. I'll help you make sense of it before you make a really expensive guess. And if this kind of locally brutal, practical advice helps out, then make sure you hit like and subscribe and follow along. I'm trying to save you from learning this stuff after you've already moved in and already bought that Costco patios. This video is really for the buyer who says, we're thinking Roseville or Rocklin. Now that sounds reasonable, but it's really too broad because West Roseville versus East Roseville, they really do not feel the same. Central Rocklin and Whitney Ranch are practically two different cities. And a home near Highway 65 is not the same lifestyle as a home that's tucked away deeper into the neighborhood. You're not choosing a city, you're choosing a daily pattern of life. The real mistake is comparing Roseville and Rocklin like they're two prices on a spreadsheet. Roseville tends to win when you want convenience and newer growth, a lot of shopping, easy medical access, lots of restaurants, and that feeling that like everything you need is just right there within your reach. Rocklin, on the other hand, tends to win if you want a little bit more character, maybe some varied terrain, like a hillside feel, and then of course that slightly tucked away feeling, but you still know that you're pretty close to everything. And neither one is automatically better. It's not good suburb versus bad suburb. It's more like the easy suburb versus the better fit suburb. That's an important distinction. So point number one, Roseville is the easy button suburb. So if you're relocating from, say, the Bay Area, Southern California, or even out of state, Roseville often makes the most sense first. It's super easy to understand. It's got lots of shopping. It has lots of newer homes, especially in West Roseville. Definitely has major retail and lots of restaurants and really great medical access. There's tons of parks and a lot of that suburban infrastructure that people expect when they say things like, I want a good area. Roseville is just a place that a lot of buyers land because it just checks a ton of boxes, and there's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes easy is exactly what you need, especially if you're moving kids and pets and jobs and all your furniture and all your stuff across the entire state or even across the country. But easy has a cost, and not always a financial cost. I mean, sometimes it can be, but sometimes it's just how you feel cost. Parts of Roseville can feel busier, just flatter, more spread out, and really more commercial. For some people, that's perfect. You know, they want options. They want quick access, and they really want life to be smooth. And for other buyers, after 6 months or so, they start saying things like, you know, I love this house, but I thought it'd be more charming. I thought there'd be more character. Or stuff like, I really didn't realize how much driving I'd be doing. Or even things like, you know, it does feel convenient, but it's just not like our personality. And that's not Roseville's fault. That's a buyer fit problem. Now let's switch gears and look at Rocklin. It's often the lifestyle feel suburb. Rocklin can feel a little more tucked in. You get more rolling terrain, more neighborhood identity, and in certain parts, a quieter residential feel. You're still close to Roseville and close to shopping and all the medical and all the great things about Roseville. And you're still connected to Highway 80 and 65. But the vibe can feel very different. I mean, don't get me wrong, Rocklin's not some like secret mountain village where everybody makes sourdough bread and refuses to use email. It's still a suburb, but it often feels less like that easy button choice and more like an intentional decision. Roseville says, look how convenient this is, but Rocklin says, this feels more like us. And that's why buyers get stuck. The Roseville house might look easier, the Rocklin house might feel better. If you only compare bedrooms and bathrooms and price and square footage, you may miss the actual decision. Here's a practical tip. Drive both areas during your daily real life meeting. We're not talking about Sunday morning at 10:30 when every suburb feels like it just finished a spa treatment. Make sure you take the time, drive it during school pickup, cruise around at dinner time, and this is a big one, drive Highway 65 when Highway 65 is being Highway 65. You know, drive it at that time where you've just gotten off work and you're tired and maybe slightly annoyed and you just want to get home. Do not buy the version of the suburb that only exists at 11 a.m. on a Saturday. Now, West Roseville completely changes the conversation. This is where people oversimplify the whole thing. They say Roseville versus Rocklin, but what they're really saying is, should we buy a newer home in West Roseville or should we buy something in Rocklin? And when you frame it that way, it's a very different question. West Roseville often does give you newer homes in those newer master plan communities. There's more inventory options and sometimes a cleaner path to getting the home that they want, like the size, the layout, the floor plan, that kind of thing. And for some relocation buyers, that looks and sounds really attractive. Newer kitchen, open layout, 3-car garage, the home office, maybe a loft, possibly that cleaner inspection report, and maybe you're avoiding that feeling like you're automatically inheriting someone else's 2004 interior design choices. But West Roseville can often feel like it's way further out depending on where you work, and also where your family and your friends are in the area, where are the activities that your kids are going to go to every day, and just how often are you going to need to get across town or maybe commute into like Sacramento or across the region. The newer house is not always the easier life. Sometimes it's just prettier while making you drive a lot more. But Rocklin, on the other hand, may give you a different, maybe the homes are a little bit older, although there is new construction, but maybe the home feels like it's priced a little bit higher for the same size, or they might even be more competitive in the pockets that you actually want. So the question is not which city is better. It's more like which trade-off can you live with less? Do you want newer and more practical, maybe more convenient? Or do you want more character and more feel? Is it convenience and lots of options? Or do you want a neighborhood that feels like it's more dialed into your particular idea? Now, utilities and fees and maybe some of the property details, they can often matter more than, let's say, the city reputation. Roseville has its own electric company, and a lot of people see that as a huge psychological plus. Now, keep in mind, not all parts of Roseville are on the Roseville Electric Utility Company. So you want to be careful about that, depending on the address. Rocklin, on the other hand, is a little different, and you need to understand the utility setup before you decide on a specific property. But don't just stop there. You also need to look at HOAs and mellow roofs and special assessments. And, because Rocklin has PG&E, you want to look into what solar is going to cost and how that's going to impact your electric. And then, of course, there's landscaping consideration. How old is the roof and the HVAC? What about the water bills and just the overall, property maintenance? You have to understand that you're shopping lazy if all you're doing is comparing units price. A particular Roseville home with one set of monthly costs, may seem better or feel better than, say, a particular home in Rocklin, or the exact opposite could be true, vice versa. A newer West Roseville home may come with different special assessments, solar details, or possibly HOA considerations. The Rocklin home may have different insurance, maintenance, and probably different utility realities depending on the specific property. You don't want to be figuring this out after you've already fallen in love with that kitchen island. Because once buyers fall in love with that kitchen island, they become financially unwell for 15 to 30 business days. Trust me, I've seen it many times. Now, schools is a pretty important point to discuss. And a lot of buyers start there. They start shopping for schools. And I get it. If you have kids, schools really do matter. And even if you don't have kids, schools still matter. Because if you plan to resell one day, that school reputation can definitely impact your resale price. And both Roseville and Rocklin have specific areas that a lot of people target because of the schools. But this can be a huge trap. Don't just buy the district reputation. You have to verify the actual school boundaries for the specific address of the property you're looking at. The school district does not tuck your kid into the right classroom, property address does. And even if you've done that, school boundaries can shift. High school districts, elementary school districts may not be what you assume. And sometimes buyers get emotionally attached to a city name without checking the actual property level assignment. And sometimes this is how people get burned. If schools is a major part of your decision, then you need to verify the school assignment before you start mentally arranging your furniture. And then even dig a little deeper and find out if there's any proposed boundary changes. And you still may want to ask yourself an even deeper question. Does the school choice match your lifestyle choice? Because sometimes the school box gets checked, but the commute, the daily activities, the payment, and the daily routine become the problem. Now listen, this is a really important point because the commute is not just the distance. Roseville and Rocklin are close, but close does not mean identical. So Rocklin sits around the I-80 and Highway 65 connection, which can be great depending on where you're going. And Roseville can also give you some pretty strong access, but the experience changes dramatically whether you're looking at East, Central, or West Roseville, or even further north towards the edge of Lincoln. If you work from home, this may matter a lot less. But if you commute to Sac or the Bay Area, or maybe out to Folsom or Rancho Cordova, or need to get to the airport, well, that matters a lot. A 5-mile difference on a map can feel like a real lifestyle tax if you have to pay it every day. And this is why I tell buyers to run those boring tests. Take the house you like, map out the actual commute, the school drop-off, the grocery store, the gym, map out the soccer practice, the grandparents' house, the airport, the office, the nearest Costco, basically all the stuff that matters in your life. Map it out. Not the fantasy life where you drive downtown maybe once or twice a month and suddenly become a huge fan of 7 a.m. farmers markets. You need to map your real life, the one with laundry. And also remember that Google Commute drive time, it might be lying to you. It's not always the distance. Sometimes it's just the amount of time you spend in your home. Now, resale demand is strong in both Roseville and Rocklin, but the buyer pools can behave differently. Roseville can have a deeper buyer pool because it's easily recognizable and convenient and just really easy for buyers to understand. And that can help with demand, especially in the right price points and in the right neighborhoods. Now, Rocklin also has strong demand, but it often attracts those buyers that are more emotionally attached to the feel and the school system, the terrain, and the neighborhood identity. And all this matters when you sell. Resale's not about whether people just like the city. It's about how many buyers actually want your exact version. A newer West Roseville home may appeal to a broader buyer pool. A Rocklin home in a desirable pocket may have more emotional pool. But a house with a weird layout, bad location, high monthly costs, or bad presentation, well, that resale can struggle in either city. Just know a city name does not rescue you from a bad buying decision. So who should choose Roseville? Well, it's probably perfect for you if you want convenience, more newer options, you want to be super close to shopping, easy peasy medical access, lots of restaurant choices, tons of services, you want a lot of parks to choose from. And if you just want a suburb that's really easy to understand quick, if you're relocating and you just want kind of a smoother landing, then Roseville might be a great first look. If you want more newer inventory options to choose from, especially particularly in parts of West Roseville, then Roseville may make a lot of sense for you. But don't just automatically exclude Rocklin, because you may regret Roseville if you're wanting something that's got more character, maybe more terrain and hills, and maybe tucked away more in a quieter neighborhood. Or if you're sensitive or maybe a little averse to being in a more commercial kind of spread out growth area. And Roseville's definitely not boring. If you're wanting it to feel like a charming little village, then you may be shopping with your imagination turned up way too high. So who is Rocklin the right fit? Well, if you want a more established feel, maybe some rolling terrain and neighborhood identity, if you're looking for strong family-oriented demand, maybe more consistent schools throughout the city, and a location that's still close enough to Roseville that you have quick access to a lot of all those Roseville amenities that people like for choosing it, but you're not actually in Roseville. But just like Roseville, there's a trade-off. So you may regret Rocklin if you need maximum convenience, or maybe you need a lot more newer home options, more commercial access all around you, or if the specific home that you like kind of pushes your budget a little too far. Rocklin can feel better, but better gets kind of annoying if the payment makes you miserable. And that's the part that nobody wants to say. A better feeling suburb is not better if you become house poor just trying to prove that you picked the premium option. And Roseville's not the fallback option just because it feels easy. For one buyer, Roseville is a smarter option. For another, Rocklin is clearly the better fit. And for a third buyer, the right fit may actually be somewhere else entirely, like Loomis or Granite Bay or Folsom or Rancho Cordova. This is where people confuse popular with personal. Popular does not mean personal. It just means a lot of other people made the same decision that has absolutely nothing to do with your life and your lifestyle. So here's the simplest way to think about Roseville versus Rocklin. Choose Roseville if you want easier daily logistics, more obvious convenience, broader shopping and services, and that smoother relocation. If you care more about feel, terrain, neighborhood identity, and the emotional side of where you live, well, choose Rocklin. But don't choose either one because some Facebook group said that, that particular city is the best. And don't choose one over the other because when you were looking at the school rating at midnight, it looked pretty good. And most definitely don't choose one over the other because Zillow made that payment look cute before you figure in taxes, insurance, mellow roofs, and solar, and before reality walked into it. And if you're comparing Rocklin versus Roseville or Folsom or Lincoln or Granite Bay or any other, Sacramento suburb and somewhere in Northern California, I can help you break this down based on your actual life. We're talking budget, commute, schools, lifestyle, the type of home you're looking for, the resale risk, and possibly some of those things that you might be trying to avoid. Just reach out, give me a call, text me, book some time on my calendar. All the information is down in the description. Tell me where you're moving from and what kind of life you're trying to build here. Because the goal is not to win an argument about Roseville versus Rocklin. The goal is to buy a house that still feels good 6 months later after the moving truck is done. Ready to stop scrolling and start making moves? Let's make it happen. And comment below where you're moving from, I'm curious. And don't forget to smash those like and subscribe buttons. We'll see you on the next one. That's a wrap.